the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and what was left behind. Now, according to this report from the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction, this is what was left behind, okay? Just hold on. The United States left 78 aircraft, 40,000 military vehicles, and over 300,000 weapons when they withdrew. Now, this is falling into the hands of terrorist organizations, and they're selling it on the black market to fund their terrorist activities. This is criminal. I mean, how do you leave 78 aircraft behind? How do you leave 40,000 vehicles? I mean, they used to destroy this stuff when they would leave it behind in previous wars, but we just we turned the keys over to terrorists. This is criminal. I would hope that once the Congress now has this report, and as we talked about earlier, they are ferreting out the agents of the deep state. People need to be held accountable for this. Again, this is criminal behavior. All right. On Monday, the Trump Department of Justice asked a federal district judge in Texas to throw out a challenge by 3 states, and they were Republican states, to the Food and Drug Administration's regulations adopted during the Biden administration, which allowed abortion pills to be prescribed without medical oversight. Now, that combined with an opinion by the Biden DOJ that the pills can be sent through the mail essentially nullifies the pro-life laws of the states. Now, this Trump DOJ filing is inconsistent with the claim that the administration supports the right of the states to adopt pro-life laws. So why are they doing this? This has been my contention with the Trump administration, even the Trump campaign. This was when we were addressing the platform issues. You cannot say you support the right of states to have pro-life laws, but then have a federal policy that allows the abortion pill to be mailed into the states, because nearly 70% of abortions are now being done by the abortion pill. Well, my next guest, I think, feels very similar, because he sent a letter to the Attorney General Pam Bondi demanding an explanation for this surprising stance. He's here now to discuss this. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Hawley, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
All right. Were you surprised by the position of the Trump DOJ in this case?
Stunned. Yeah, just stunned. I mean, Missouri is one of the states in this case. In fact, Missouri is leading the lawsuit, and it's really a question of, are voters going to be able to set the policy and protect life in their states or not? And the position of the Biden administration is, it doesn't matter what the voters vote anywhere. It doesn't matter what state legislatures do. The Biden DOJ and the Biden FDA said, we're going to allow providers to mail in chemical abortion drugs into every state, no matter what. If your state restricts it, doesn't matter. We're still going to mail in the abortion drugs. And now women can take them under the Biden rules without any physician supervision, any physician help and assistance. It's incredibly dangerous, Tony, and it's also totally cuts the legs out from under the Dobbs ruling. I don't know why the current Department of Justice would defend this rule. It seems to me to be totally antithetical to the president's position during the campaign and also to the Supreme Court's Dobbs ruling.
Now, there's a simple solution here, if I'm not mistaken, Senator, and feel free to correct me. But you can have the Department of Justice reissue an opinion saying the Commtock law applies to abortion pills as it did prior to the Biden administration. And you can also roll back the FDA rule that simply requires medical oversight of the prescription of the abortion pill.
Yeah, and that is, you're correct, and I think that's exactly what needs to happen, and here's why. Just in the last week, we've had a major study of the different prescriptions of the abortion drug to women, 865,000 different prescriptions of this drug. And what this study found over a course of years, the data it looked at, is that almost 11% of women who take this drug experience a serious adverse event. That's the lingo. What that means is a life-threatening event, emergency room visits, hemorrhaging. This is a huge number, huge number. It shows that the drug is not safe, and that is why, since it has been available in this country, It has always come with safety protocols. Doctors have to prescribe it. Doctors have to administer it. They have to be available to their patients to help them in the event of a serious health complication. Biden got rid of all that. And I think this administration could do a world of good by putting those safety restrictions back into place immediately. It's a matter of life and death, literally.
What is preventing them from doing that?
Nothing. Nothing's preventing them. And as to the Department of Justice, I think their position in this suit is baffling for many reasons. You're right. I did write to the Attorney General today, and I asked her to review their position and change it. I mean, they need to be pushing to allow voters and states to defend life, and they certainly shouldn't be in court defending the Biden administration's rules. And I've also, for the same reasons, pushed the FDA, and they're the ones who have the authority here to put in place the safety regulations. I continue to push the FDA to put back in place these safety regulations. In light of this new data that we have, Tony, it is absolutely necessary. It is absolutely vital that they do this ASAP.
Now, I'm going to go back to this filing by the Department of Justice in this case that is in Texas. So you have 3 states. You have Missouri, you have Kansas, and you have Idaho. Now, they were kind of piggybacking on a previous case. What the federal government is saying is that they don't have standing. They lack standing to bring this case in that jurisdiction. Do you buy that? I mean, you're former Attorney General of the state of Missouri. Is that a legitimate legal argument?
Well, I don't really buy that. I do not buy the argument at all that the states don't have the right to bring this suit, and that's really what the Department of Justice said here. They quarreled a little bit with what court it got brought in, which is very sort of a lot of legalese, but then they also said, we really doubt, frankly, that states have the ability to bring this suit at all. And Tony, I just completely disagree with this. I mean, listen, the state of Missouri has a responsibility for its citizens, in this case, the women of Missouri, many of whom are experiencing major health effects, adverse health effects from the abortion drug that's getting mailed into our state. And that's why Missouri is suing. They're saying, hold on, thousands and thousands of Missouri women have had to be rushed to hospitals because of the side effects of this drug. Oftentimes the states had to pick up the tab, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is their health, their safety,
right,
which is severely at risk. That's why these safety regulations, Tony, have got to go back into effect.
Now, I don't buy this interpretation of the Dobbs decision that it simply said it's a state issue. I think it put it back into the hands of policymakers at every level, because I think there's a federal role, as we see right here. But let's just say, for case of argument, that it is a state issue, and then the state has a right to deal with the issue. Well, this would completely undercut that if you allow a federal policy to continue to mail abortion pills circumventing the state law. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you support the right of states to protect the unborn and their mothers, and at the same time have a policy that allows these abortion pills to be sent into the state.
That's exactly correct, which is why the Biden administration put this policy in place. They did not want anybody deciding to restrict abortion in any way. They didn't want anybody protecting life, not any voter, not any legislature, not the Congress, nobody. So they created this regime where it just doesn't matter what voters say. Voters can vote to say, you know what, we don't want there to be abortion at all in our state, or we don't want there to be abortion after X number of weeks. It doesn't matter now. Providers, others can mail this drug in to any state they want, no hold safety protocols. So you're right, Tony, it totally undermines the right of the people at any level, local, state, federal, to decide this issue.
Now, I believe you've introduced legislation addressing this issue with mifepristone. Tell us about that.
My legislation would put back into place the long-standing safety regulation. So it would say the drug can only be prescribed by a real doctor, honest-to-goodness doctor. It can only be dispensed by a doctor. A doctor has to be on hand to help and assist in the event of a medical emergency. There's got to be follow-up with a doctor. And this is really important. My legislation would allow women who have experienced major medical emergencies because of this drug, it would allow them to sue the telehealth providers, so-called, who have sent them the drugs. What's happening now is doctor doesn't have to prescribe it. So you could have somebody who doesn't know the dangers of this drug. They don't ever meet a doctor. They go online somewhere, and a website sends them the drug, mails it through the mail. You ought to be able to sue those people if you're injured because you take the drug under false pretenses, and that's what my bill would do.
So presently there's no liability for those that would be trafficking in these drugs?
Well, you could try to sue them under our existing statutes, Tony. It would be very difficult because currently, under the regulations you pointed out, the Biden administration said you can absolutely mail the drugs through the mail, no problem at all. You can dispense them by telehealth, no problem at all. So it's pretty darn hard to sue anybody. We need to allow women who have been harmed by this drug, and that's a lot of women we now know, we need to allow them to get into court and say, hold on a minute. And you prescribed me this drug, you should be liable for how I was hurt.
Senator Hawley, speak to the issue of the Commtock Act that was in place and would have prohibited, it did prohibit the mailing of abortion drugs until a DOJ opinion in the Biden administration.
Well, this is a long-standing law, Tony. It's been around for years, decades old, and has always been understood to say that you cannot do what the Biden administration is doing now and what they have given us now, which is you cannot mail abortion drugs through the mail, which is always a requirement that in order to get an abortion drug, do a chemical abortion, a doctor had to prescribe it and a doctor had to administer it in person. But the Biden DOJ wanted to create a whole new system. They wanted to create a whole new abortion industry. And so they said, oh, never mind. We'll allow people to mail this drug. We'll allow people to mail it without a doctor visit. We'll allow anything goes. And so that's.
I think we may have lost. Senator, you there? I think we may have lost him momentarily. We'll see if we get him back. This is, there's a couple of things here. First, this is a policy, as Senator Hawley said, that was put in place by the Biden administration. Two aspects. One is the Commtock Act, which was an opinion. This is a statute, but an opinion from the DOJ was given saying that it doesn't apply to the abortion pill. And then secondly, there was these new rules promulgated or adopted by the FDA that allows this abortion pill to be prescribed without any kind of medical interaction. All right, and that's those requirements have been in place for decades, going back to the Clinton administration. Those two things need to be changed, and they can be changed by the Trump administration. And that's our point: is that the Trump administration needs to fix this because the Trump administration cannot say that they are respectful of the rights of states to protect the unborn and women and still have this policy in place. I think we have the senator back. Senator, final question for you. We got about a minute left. Is there a legislative remedy on the Commtock Act?
Well, the legislative remedy, I think, Tony, is to put back into place, to mandate in the law all of these safety regulations, and that begins with in-person dispensing. That means no more dispensing this drug through the mail. We need to put back in place the rule that says if you're going to get this abortion drug, you have to go to a real doctor. He or she has to give it to you in person. There's got to be follow-up visits, etc. That would take care of the mailing issue. And Tony, the other thing is we've got to shut down these. Some of these are overseas telehealth providers. They're like from India. We've got to ban them from sending the drug into the United States and from quote unquote prescribing it to women in the United States.
Because you don't even know if it's the purity of the drug or what the drug is. I mean, this is there's no accountability here. I mean, this is so dangerous.
Exactly.
Senator Josh Hawley, always great to talk with you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.